Hello, hello. What's up? What's up? It is a new day, it is a new week, and it's time to get social. My name is KaVonna, and welcome to the Introvert's Social Hour. Welcome. So y'all know that I'm a middle school teacher. I taught science for half a school year and taught dance this past academic year. The experience has definitely opened my eyes to a lot for sure. And I wanted to talk about what being a teacher means and also what could be better as a teacher. So this episode is titled Teachers Deserve More because we're going to be talking about those things. I brought two fellow teachers, Melissa and Leah, to join me as we talk about our experiences as teachers. Melissa is an English teacher and an advocate for change, and Leah is an essayist turned English teacher and an advocate for creativity. Please welcome Melissa and Leah. Woo woo.
Woo! Yeehaw, Cowboys. Hi. Um,
How
I've
are y'all
I've been
doing?
with my nephew for 3 days and he's obsessed. So yeehaw.
All right, you hot.
I'm great. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm
I'm
also really
Melissa.
happy to be here.
Awesome. Currently at the time of this podcast, we are a week into our summer break. How's the summer treating you so far?
It's been a week, it feels like 2 days, but at the same
Mhm.
time, I feel like even doing this podcast, I feel more refreshed. Like I feel like if we did it right when we were doing school, I don't know.
Yeah. I at
For
least for sure the
me,
week. I agree.
I'm sorry. For me, okay, well, first off, I'm Leah. I didn't even say my name earlier, but for me, the summer doesn't even really feel like a summer because every day is a countdown. It is not I can just forget about whatever
Mhm.
the school year coming up. It is a countdown to
But isn't that a little
that.
sad, Leah?
It
That's a
is
little
sad.
sad
It
Mhm.
is
because
sad.
you count down the days until school ends, and now you're counting down until school
Mhm.
begins
Mhm.
again. You're in
Yep.
a constant state of countdown.
It's my eternal
Mhm.
cycle of countdowns.
Mhm. It's that brain battle. It literally never ends.
It
Yeah.
does not.
Mhm. We're gonna talk about that, but I have some theories in regards to like just the fact that teaching is automatically like intertwined with your life. So no matter
Hmm.
when you're not in that space, you're just always thinking about it,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
I
Um,
think you're always thinking about it, but also like if the people in your life know you're a teacher, they always talk about it.
Yeah, they do.
mm,
So
yeah.
it's like even if you're trying to get away from it, oh, you're a teacher. Oh, look at that kid.
Oh my gosh, that reminds me. So, like, I was really looking forward to getting to talk to my friends again because, like, I
Mhm.
actually have the time to do that now. But every time I'm talking with them, they're like, "Oh, hey, Leah, by the way, you're a teacher. Do you remember when in elementary school, da 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 da?" I'm like, now that I am a teacher, I am suddenly the like go-to for like talking about that sort of thing, but sometimes I
Mhm.
want to escape from it, you know? So,
Mhm.
and I was looking for that in my friends, but now that I have that teacher label assigned to me, there is
Mhm.
like no escaping it now, no, even during the summer, which really sucks,
Yeah, I
I
feel
think.
that. I could agree with that. Um, I am super excited and just like intrigued about us talking about this in
Hmm.
regard to just like teacher recognition and then also like the challenges we face. Especially
Hmm.
like to be more specific with our like listeners, we do work at a charter school in a charter school system. So it may look a little bit different from teachers who are in public school
Hmm.
systems. So I didn't want to make that note. But I have no doubt that the certain struggles we have can be applied to teachers all over the US. So I'm super
Hmm.
excited to just talk about it and hopefully get some perspectives out there because we be struggling a bit. I can,
A little bit.
right?
I
Three,
think
how
it's
many
so
days
funny
are we
because
teaching?
we all feel like we struggle, and then you go online and like everything on my For You page is us struggling. So it's like if there's so much knowledge on the struggle, why is there not enough help?
Yeah,
Hmm.
I don't get it.
I agree with that too. Yeah. It's literally like we're like, help. And they're like, oh, that's cute. You want some post-it notes? Like,
I think it's partially because teachers, I feel like, have struggled for so long.
mm,
It's kind of been normalized for,
yeah.
oh, that is just the usual experience you should have as a teacher, which I don't think should be what it is. I feel like you
I
should.
either get that, Leah, or I get you chose this profession. You should have known what you got yourself
Mm,
into.
that is victim
Mm,
blaming on the
yeah.
highest degree.
Which I feel like we have experienced as well. We'll talk about that.
Yeah.
I do want to ask y'all first to get the insight in for a second. Can you please share your personal journey as a teacher and motivations for entering the field? So for me, I'll start first in the sense of I've taught for a year and a half, an academic year and a half at this point. Um, Teaching was never a part of my plan. I'm gonna be quite honest. It wasn't something that I knew I was gonna do. Dance teaching specifically, yes, but I didn't think it'd be a full-time thing. So that kind of came with kind of like rolling with the things that kind of like life throws at you and opportunities and things like that. Um, but as a dance teacher, I love being able to help kids get the opportunities that quite honestly I didn't get myself. Like I was pretty late in regards to the dance world, and so being able to teach people so young, um and get them to know things that I didn't know at their age is really cool. Middle school, yes, but I also taught dance before that, but that was more part-time. But that's me. Very short journey so far, especially because I didn't have it in my plan. What about you, Leah? We'll start with you first.
Okay. I would say that I was more maybe in tune or aligned with the teaching path. Before this, even while I was doing journalism and writing essays, I was doing tutoring for English off to the side to Korean students. So I always had sort of my foot in the door, but it was really kind of just a spur of the moment thing, seeing the job listing up and being like, hey, like that's always been a thing I was interested in and something I have a bit of passion for. So
Mm-hmm.
kind of how I got in there. But as to why, I'm going to say I'm a little maybe self absorbed in saying this, but I do like seeing my impact on people. Like,
Mm-hmm.
ever since like maybe elementary school, I've always been a little bit like on the artsy side, seeing other people copy what I did on my artwork. Like, wow, Leah, I really like how you outline your colored pencil drawings with marker. I started doing that in my work. Seeing my impact on other people has always been something that gives me a little bit of, oomph in my day, a little bit of motivation. So I felt like teaching would be able, like, would let me translate that to a bigger scale. So
Mm-hmm.
that might be, it might be a little bit of a self-absorbed, selfish reason to teach, but I just like seeing my impact and seeing that influence the future.
Yeah, nothing self-absorbed about that, I don't think. What about you, Melissa?
So my journey is kind of like twofold. So growing up, I wanted to be a therapist. I wanted to do this. I've always wanted to help people. And
Mm-hmm.
then graduating high school, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I ended up going to nursing school and I cried every single day. I had mental breakdown after mental breakdown, and I realized I couldn't do it. And just being in that space of like doing really bad in school, like not being able to, I guess you could say, finish the program, whatever you want to say. I only did 1 year in nursing school.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I felt almost like I was put back into my elementary and like middle school days because when I was a student, I was one of the ones that was like consistently like fell through the cracks. And I needed help with my grades and my mental health, and I was never given the extra help simply because I behaved. And because I wasn't a behavior issue, I never was given that extra time or attention that I desperately needed. And so I wanted to become a teacher in order to like lessen the cracks. I wanted to be that one person that was able to save that one person. I know
Mm-hmm.
it's like almost like a superhero story. Like you're not going to be able to save them all. But I thought like me being a person in a school, I could at least try to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Mhm. What
So
a
I did
journey.
go to school to be a teacher after all. So
Mhm.
I know you guys didn't actually like think about it. Like after all, I thought about it. So I
Mhm.
actually
Mhm.
wanted to be a teacher. Like this
Yeah.
is like my end goal. Yeah.
In some
Nice.
ways, I think that's interesting that someone who did like have that on their mind going to school still has the same amount of struggle that people who did not think about the career path at all
Mm-hmm.
have, which I think is really interesting since
Yeah,
we're
I agree with
on the
that as well.
subject.
Yeah, I don't really tell people I failed out of nursing school because it makes me feel dumb.
I mean, I
But
don't,
in a way, like if that didn't happen to me, then I wouldn't be where I am and I wouldn't be
yeah.
happy because I am happy doing what I do.
Hmm.
Sometimes things happen for a reason. I try to live my life by that
Yeah.
credo.
I agree with that. And like not something is not meant for somebody, but it's meant for somebody else and different things like
Hmm.
that. I had talked to someone else about this yesterday because I recorded an episode about like college. We talked about that as well. Like
Hmm.
sometimes college isn't for everyone too.
Hmm.
Fun question. What has been your most wild or funny moment of teaching so far?
I
Because
think Melissa should go first.
as teachers, I feel like we experience a lot. Yeah.
Um, so both Leah and KaVonna know this story, but the wildest moment, hands down, was probably when I got a call from a parent saying that they were coming to pick up their child. And I said, okay, no problem, come and sign them out in the main office. And the parent was like, what? And I said, you have to come sign them out in the main office. The parent wasn't able to do that because they left their house with no pants on.
Oh,
So I had to go outside, find a double parked car, find a woman with no pants on, have her sign out her kid, and then bring her kid to the car.
And
wow.
I feel like you should note that you were in the middle of teaching a class
Oh, I
while
was in
this
the
was
middle of
happening.
teaching a class. Yes.
And
Yeah.
then like you just had to leave in the middle just to get to this lady with no pants on.
And you heard the whole story, right? I was on the phone with the mom. I had to sign her out. I had to find a double parked car. I had to find the that took me 6 minutes. I was superwoman.
Wow. I have that's interesting just because I'm like we're especially because we teach middle school at this point. Like you know the process for picking up your child.
Literally.
Why did you come out of the house with no bottoms
Um,
on?
and another detail I feel like you should mention was that this was over a scraped hand, I
Yeah,
think.
the child like fell. Like it wasn't a fall. He
Oh.
fell while he was at recess. He got a minor, not even a band-aid scrape on his hand, and the mom came to pick him up as if it was like his hand was falling off and that you had to leave the house with no pants on.
Mm, that's interesting.
But you
Um,
know, I don't know what to say because I don't have kids. So maybe if I had a kid and they scraped their hand, I would act the same way.
you never know. Every parent's different. That's true. Um, I think my wildest story, not necessarily a funny one. Oh, well, hmm. I think the most ridiculous one. I'm gonna talk about this one. It's funny, but also like it was like very much why. And then like Melissa and Leah, you know this one too. Um,
Hmm.
some of our like students they like to stall in the bathroom. And
Hmm.
so I was on bathroom
Oh
duty once.
no.
And for people, it's just bathroom. You sit outside and you're, at a desk. And I be on them. I be tracking feet and everything because they be playing around in there. I saw one student go inside the bathroom stall and crawl underneath on the floor on the stall, out of the stall to try to stand in the corner of the bathroom where they know like they can just chill, no one can see. But I saw them crawl on the floor, so yeah, that would be the wildest one because I was like,
I feel
and,
like I should mention these are kids from my homeroom. They were from my classroom.
yeah. Mhm.
Two of my actually like now that I like retrospect on it, it's two of my favorite students, but that was
Aw.
definitely a very wild moment for them.
Leah,
Yeah.
I think your whole year was wild. Leah
Hmm.
had
My
one of
whole year was wild, but I
Hmm.
think
Leah had one of the
the
most
the
wildest
wildest
homerooms.
the wildest homeroom, but I think one of the wildest moments from my wild homeroom is this may not be familiar to viewers, but our school operates on an advisor advisee system where
Hmm.
you are assigned a certain amount of kids that you have to call home every week, give their parents an update of their academic report, behavior issues. You're kind of like the representative go to at the school for that parent. So one of my advisees, so I am the student's advisor, their parent called home and it had to be like maybe 7 8 p.m. It's super late at this point. I'm checked out, I'm ready to go to sleep, but this parent calls and they sound very panicked. So I'm trying to calm them down, and it is a mom, and she's like, Miss Park, because that's how they address me as the teacher. Miss Park,
Hmm.
um, my student came home with $400, and
Hmm.
She says she received that money from another student in her classroom. Mind you, both of these students are my advisees. So in my head, I'm thinking, oh God, what do I call this parent and tell her? So I'm like, first off, thank you, ma'am, for being honest. I'm glad that your student is honest enough to report this money. But yeah, I didn't really know what to do about that. I was like, wow, $400 is a lot of money. So
Have you ever heard of a 10-year-old even having $400?
No.
I think it's well that not only he got 400, no, it was actually 500 after I actually contacted his parent, which is a whole other story. But from his side, this is the student that gave the 400. This has to be the wildest part of the story. It's not even the part that he is giving away the money. It is the idea that he tells me, hey, Miss Park, I actually received the money from a random guy on the street who walked up to me and said, hey, I know your sister. Here's $500. And there were a lot of things wrong with that story.
Yeah.
I was like, first off, what are you doing talking to a random guy on the street?
Mm-hmm.
And second, why would you take money from him?
And then give it away.
Yeah.
And then give it away. Like, if I got $500, you know, I mean, morals are morals, but I would be keeping that. So.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. It was wild.
There was also a time where a student dapped me up like we were doing a transaction, and he gave me $50, and I said, I can't take this. He was like, what? You're a great teacher. I said, you gotta put it in a card, you gotta put it in a gift card.
Right.
Yeah.
He literally dabbed me up, had $50 in his hand. And I said, where do these 10-year-olds figure this out?
Right.
That reminds, I mean, it's an overall thing, I think, in the school we work in specifically, which I it may just be a side effect of working in such a metropolitan area. The children have a very weird relationship with money, I think. Maybe they do not know the true like value behind what they are carrying in their pockets, but I don't know. I know as a teacher, you're supposed to be like teaching them, like, oh, this is how, like, you should be responsible around money. But on the other hand, it's definitely not something that should be solely on us teachers to teach them. You know?
Exactly, and that actually works because that rolls into my next thing I was going to ask. Because I feel like as a teacher, you're more than just a teacher. I just want to talk about the impact of teaching in general. So my first question is, what does being a teacher mean to you? Like, what do you feel is your role individually?
So being a teacher to me is like being more of a mentor, honestly. I'm here to help the children reach their full potential and then like learn about themselves as well as let them learn about the world that they're in. Sometimes I feel more of like a sociologist than a teacher because it's almost like you're with the kids more often than their parents. And so sometimes you're teaching them social cues, you're teaching them like, this is how you're nice to plants. Why would you ruin a plant? That's our ecosystem. Like, there's different things that I think being a teacher, you're more of a mentor because you're not even, as a teacher, when you walk around the building, everyone's your kid. It's not just your homeroom. If you see someone on the stairs crying, you're gonna ask them what's going on.
Yeah.
So exactly. I like being a teacher is more than just, I don't know if you ever seen TikTok and it's like a teacher and she's like walking around the school building and she's wearing different hats. Literally, she's like, oh, I'm a principal right now. Right now, I'm a custodian. Right now, I'm a nurse. It's like you play all these roles all day.
That's true. Absolutely. I agree with that.
I also, not to piggyback off of your answer, Melissa. That is a term we constantly hear in the classroom.
I can't stand that one. Personally.
But okay. But to kind of continue that, not only are we mentors, but we've been throwing around this word a lot. We're supposed to be advocates for our students. Like, you realize that these students will not receive the opportunities that many other students may receive. So you as the teacher are supposed to advocate not only for them to the world beyond, but also them to themselves. A lot of these students don't realize what they're missing out on, or the benefits they're receiving from being at the school. So you kind of have to be that advocate and be like, hey, like, you realize that 10 years from now on, you may think that this writing lesson isn't of any use to you. But when you're writing a letter to a politician, or you're advocating for yourself, you're going to realize, oh, yeah, this lesson I learned 10 years ago on how to write a letter lets me advocate and present myself in a way that I need to, versus me having to learn that all now in the moment. So
can I add something to that as well? So
yeah,
like,
you're gonna piggyback off of my piggyback.
yeah, this is a double piggyback right now. So
Piggyception, you may say.
like when you're talking about being an advocate, and well, that's, you're completely right, and I feel that like tenfold. Like this year alone, I had conversations with students that they were not having these conversations with their parents, and because of that, I was almost like the middleman. I then called the parent, told them what, like, the conversation we were having, and then I got them referred to counseling because some of these kids really needed a third opinion. Some of these kids were really struggling. I had to call the parent, hey, they need to stay after school for tutoring because they are not up to par right now. And if I didn't take that action to advocate for them, who knows what would happen right now. So Leah, I think you're like totally correct. Like we're advocating more than anybody else. Because like the way that school systems gets what they need, like for the special needs children, for the paras, for that, it's because these teachers are writing reports for them. It's because these teachers are going to these meetings for them. It's because these teachers are writing and reading and scanning and doing all these things, making sure the student gets to where they have to be for next year, whatever the case might be.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting that I feel like a lot of people don't see how much extra work that is. I mean, like, I will gladly do that work. If it takes me an extra hour of my day after school to write that report, I will get it done. But people don't seem to realize that you are doing that on top of the grading and the teaching and the paperwork and the administrative work, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Like, it is so much work. And that is just on top of that. So, but I mean, like, again, I would gladly do that. Just, there have been many times where I've spent like hours of my free time to try and get those reports done for children.
Yeah.
So, that's like something I've like noticed and observed too. And it makes me think back to my teachers and what they were doing for me too.
Yeah. I did have like a curiosity question before we go into like our challenges. Were there any teachers that you look back on that were impactful to you, that were your mentors, that were your advocates, that might have even helped you move into the career you're currently in right now?
Yes.
Okay. Yes.
Yes,
Were
absolutely.
were there English teachers, by out of curiosity, were they English teachers or were they math,
So
science?
long story short, um, I moved schools a lot. It wasn't because I was moving, it was because my mom was always trying to like, she didn't want me to go to like the local public school. So then I ended up going to a charter school and stuff like that. My first year at this charter school, it was fifth grade. My fifth grade teacher, her name was Renee. At that school, we went by first names, because it was a family.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
yeah, so we went by first name. So all my teachers, my academic life from fifth grade to 12th grade, I know them by first name. It's kind of weird actually.
Okay.
So Renee was my fifth grade teacher, and she was probably the first person that I thought like saw me. Like I felt seen by her. And because I felt seen, I felt like I opened up. And because I opened up, I was able to have these opportunities I didn't have before. I became social. I became great at English. She was my English teacher and she like went up with me, and I think that's why I ended up really liking it. Um she showed up for me every day, and I remember her. And when I was going for my bachelor's for teaching, I connected with her and I did some of my student teaching with her. And literally last week, because it was our last day of teaching, I emailed her and I said, "Hey, I just wanted to let you know that like you're the most amazing role model I've ever had. I'm following your footsteps. I'm teaching. I'm doing this. I'm doing that." And
Mhm.
she emailed me back. She was like, "You were a rock star in my classroom, and when you were helping me, this was like your dream." Blah 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 blah. Like
Aw.
this. I'm 28. When was I in the fifth grade? 2005. Like this is so long ago, and she still knows me, remembers me, sees me.
Yeah. Mhm.
That is something that's so impactful for me. And like, so she is like A1 day one top dog in my book.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What about you, Leah?
Um, I think I'm gonna note that my high school situation was a little unique as well, because all my favorite teachers are from high school. I also changed schools a lot. That is because I was moving a lot. My dad works in the military. He's an officer, so he is consistently deployed in all these different countries, locations. I, along with him, have to move and change schools. So the high school I went to, first off, was very small. It was a middle high school, so both middle and high school students
Got it.
attended this school. My graduating class was only 18 people. It was a very, very small, tight knit community.
Mhm.
But I think that kind of lended itself to how close I was with a lot of my teachers. I felt like my teachers were not only teachers I saw in school, but were also people I hung out with after school. Like they made time out of their day that they didn't have to be teaching and interacting with students
Yeah.
to interact with me and my friends. And so, for example, my art teacher, Miss Spencer, shout out to her. I don't think her name is Miss Spencer anymore, but that's how I know her. Um, she would arrange movie parties after school, and we would do an 80s
Oh,
movie
cute.
party after school and have snap bracelets, snacks. That was a lot of fun.
Mhm.
Mrs. Houghton, she unfortunately passed away back in like 2018.
Mhm.
But I have very fond memories of she got me through AP calculus. I hate math. I'm okay at math, but I hate math. But she got me through that AP class somehow, and she held my hand through that. She had the best cheesy potato recipe. And I think it was just all those like extra things that teachers did outside of the classroom that they did not have
Mhm.
to do,
Mhm.
like the movie parties, making food, checking in with me after school, talking with me. That made me realize that teachers were also people and that I could build a relationship and a friendship with them just like I could anyone else.
Yeah.
So I would not call myself a teacher's pet, but I was definitely friends with a lot of my teachers, which is
Okay.
what ended up happening.
Yeah. But also, like, as you said too, small knit community too. So I feel like
Mm-hmm.
kind of like in relation to what Melissa's like experiences, you probably got that family vibe as well.
Yeah,
Um,
we did. We did.
which is cool. Similarly, for me, one of my favorite teachers is also my AP calculus teacher. Um, she
Something
too,
about it. Something about it.
right? She also got me through. She was like my biggest hype person because for me, I don't think like those things like math and things like that come naturally to me automatically. Like those are things I gotta fight for, like
Mm-hmm.
to understand. And so like she really was like like she was like you got an A on this test. She was like, I'm not gonna tell anybody else, but you did a good job. She was like, good job. Like I just remember those moments, and I was like not only just be for me, I've always been like, because I was super strict on myself. I was like, my first B I got in high school, and I'm so extra. My first B I got in high school was in AP Calculus AB, and I was like, no. But she knew how hard I was fighting. So when I was in BC the next year, like anytime she saw me succeeding, she was like, "You're doing it," and like she was even like you're out beating the other people, like the ones like who were it was naturally smart to them. She was like, "You did better than them." She's like, "Good job." So she was like my personal hype person. So Miss Ballard, also I think her name is not Miss Ballard anymore, but also now I know her. Miss Ballard, best calculus teacher ever. I could learn calculus from her. She's the reason I like calculus, but also too don't want to keep doing math. So, but if I had to do calculus, I would do calculus. And then
I have a
also,
curiosity question.
yes,
So, um, come back to me.
got you.
Come back to me.
Okay, you're good. And then my other teacher, also high school, Mr. Bishop. Specifically, though, I was in a program called Avid, and it was like a college prep program for Some middle schools have middle school into high school. I started in high school. I don't know if if they're in New York, but I had did it. I'm from California, and so I don't know, it was a really cool experience. I did all 4 years of high school, and he was also like super supportive and um any challenges or anything. Like he was a mentor. Like that was a part of his role as an avid teacher, and he did an amazing job. So yeah, I would say Miss Blar, Mr. Bishop, they were both in the same hallway, so there was good vibes in that hallway. But yeah,
I
let me
have
know
a
you.
question now.
Okay, I was gonna say.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Do you guys feel like when you guys were in school that you were immensely harder on yourself than, let's say, other people around you, even your parents were?
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Because I beat myself up
Mhm.
like I distinctly remember being in the third grade and I
Mhm.
messed up what a noun is and an adjective is. So I put everything in the opposite side. So obviously I failed that test. I went home
Mhm.
crying. I went to the nurse. I gave myself a stomach ache from crying. And I went
Mhm.
home because I failed that test.
Mhm. Yeah,
Like,
I agree. I've done the tears. I 100% agree.
do you think that's like something innately in us and that's why we're teachers?
I don't know.
I don't know, because I feel like teachers were always so hard on themselves growing up, and then they're like, yeah, I need to help them now. I need to help them.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good
Yeah.
question.
I
Oh,
I can partially see where you're coming from with that
mm,
because growing up, um, I definitely felt like, oh, there are some things I feel like if teacher did X, teacher did Y, I feel like I would not be as hard on myself about, and I could be doing that for other people, which could be a part of why I became a teacher. But I don't know, that is an interesting theory to bring up because I definitely agree with most of the other teachers we've talked to, that they were like, yeah, I was like always comparing myself and always
mm.
hard on myself during
Like
school.
we were anal children.
Yeah, I don't, for
I
me,
mean, that is one way of putting it.
yeah. Yeah, I don't know. For me, it's just a weird, it's an interesting balance because me and my mom educationally are like very two different people. So I just think of, so my mom was chill vibes. Like she struggled in school. So the fact that I was doing well, she was like, you got a B, you got to see, like, like as long as I was passing and there were no issues coming from the school about me and things like that, like she was chilling. So if I failed the test, she's like, girl, what's your grade? Like, your grade's still good, right? Like, so I was definitely harder on me, but I'm also low key a perfectionist. So I don't know what that means as well. Um, I don't know, that'd be a good thing to like study off of. I'd be intrigued. But speaking of challenges, then, we can move on to our specific challenges in regards to teaching. So, sometimes we hear, especially I end up on teacher talk as well,
Hmm.
Melissa, people talk about like limited resources, heavy workloads, lack of recognition, pay, et cetera, et cetera. I wanted to talk about how those intertwine with work-life balance. So I do want to ask you a very general question, but it all looks different for every single teacher out there. What does a work-life balance look like for you? Um, and I'll let you think about it for a second, because for me, when I first started, it was kind of non-existent. It took over my life, and I think that was just like the struggle of figuring out how to be a teacher. And I was like picking other people's brains on how the heck they do it, especially just like I think that as charter schools, because we are more like, I feel like compared to a public school, we have more on our plates as far as like
Hmm.
workload. Um, I was kind of like drowning because I was like, I'm supposed to be in front of the kids all day, but I also have all this stuff to do. So I'm working at home. I'd come home at 7 something because I used to work in the Bronx. And then I'd have to do work until 10 and wake up and do it all over again super early in the morning. I'd be up before dark. I'd get to work sometimes before the sun went up, and there was nothing. And so this past year as a dance teacher, I told myself it was going to be different. I was like, I need to be happier and more stable in my job position. Because at the end of the day, I was like, I matter more. And so I worked on finding it a little bit more as far as like using up every single free time. I say that in quotation marks for people listening. Every single free time to really do as much work as possible when I'm on the clock, to not have to do it at home. Or if I have to do it at home, what is the date and the time that I do these things instead of it taking up every single day? and it's still a work in progress because I feel like it's very hard as a teacher to not take work home with you. But
Mhm.
that's kind of where I'm at. It's gotten better.
No, I was about to say, I'm proud of you because I didn't know you last year, but this year I know you went to things after school. You went to this dance class and whatever the
Mhm.
case might be. So like I am proud of you because you
Thank you.
obviously saw that and then you changed it to for yourself.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate that. I was struggling.
Yeah, Melissa and I had many conversations in the car. We're like, wow, KaVonna really still does the thing she wants to do, even on top of this job. I wonder how she's doing it.
Yeah, because
So,
technically, if you're teaching five at least classes a day, you're moving your body, girl. So the
Mhm.
fact that you're like out here working out five times a day and then you still go into a class at night, like that just shows that like you're resilient.
Thank you. Yeah, I was really just like, because I was like, yes, I'm a dance teacher now, so that helps a bit in regards to my like dance career. But I was like, but teaching kids is not the equivalent of me learning
Hmm.
100%. And so I was like, and also like teaching kids is not me like enjoying a dance class. So I was like, I need to make sure I'm pulling that back into my life. Literally, I didn't take my first dance class out here until May of last year, and I had been working since January. Like literally, my job had completely wrapped itself around me.
Right.
So I was like, I'm not doing that again.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So this is Leah and I's first year at KaVonna school, but
yeah.
this the like the
Not
work
my
life
school.
balance. It's your school.
Your school now. Your school.
Um, I think the work-life balance is probably the hardest thing about our job, literally. Because I'm up so early, like you said, to get to school, and I'm one of those people, if I don't sleep my 7 hours, I am miserable the next day, and how am I going to be miserable trying to teach kids? So it came to be that I wasn't getting breaks at work because my breaks, I did things. I was grading something. I was making a PowerPoint. I was printing something out. I was calling these parents that I got to call once a week. Like it's a lot. And then we do after school and then I commute home as well. So getting home at like 6, 6:30, knowing I have to be in bed by 9, I was cramming everything into the weekend.
Yeah.
And then when I crammed everything into the weekend, I was so exhausted by Monday.
Hmm.
So it came a time where I was like, okay, if I have an hour a day, like during the school day that I'm free, 30 minutes by yourself, 30 minutes do something. Then you have an hour after school. Like you literally have to be a militant with yourself and just that's how you prioritize your time and that's it.
Hmm.
That's at least what I had to learn because I need to be social. Like I need
Put
like
that on a I need to be social t-shirt. It's all
yeah,
teachers.
I need to be social. So if I had like 3 weeks at a time where I was not seeing any of my friends, I wasn't seeing my boyfriend, I was miserable. And how can I show up every day for these kids being miserable?
Yeah, exactly. They don't get the best of you. Yeah.
Literally. How am I can't. So there's a saying like, if my cup is empty, how am I supposed to pour into your cup? I can't
Hmm.
pour into these kids' cups that they really are thirsty because I'm dying of dehydration as well.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I'm giving you your props because you did it this year. You did it.
Thank
For
you. Thank you.
real.
I am curious though. Have you thought of ways or have you tried ways that have like helped you overcome like that lack of balance, especially considering like for us, our mental and emotional stability, like we just said, is key to being a teacher. So
Yeah.
have you thought about like what that looks like for you? Or is it a work in progress?
I mean, it is a work in progress, but I
Mm.
kind of realized that being an anal child as a child,
Mhm.
I'm still an anal adult.
Mhm.
So I have to make sure that I'm good. So I pack my lunch the night before. I make sure the coffee's ready to go on when I wake up. I
Mhm.
take my earrings out that I want to wear and I put them out in my dresser. I have all my outfits picked out on Sunday
Yeah.
because I don't want to think about it when I get home. I treat myself like a toddler.
Hey, listen,
If it
you're
works, it works.
literally No, but that's
Yay.
true though. That's what part of it helped me. I mean, I have to wear black every day now, so that really doesn't do much. But like, making sure I have it and not picking through my laundry that I probably haven't put
Hmm.
up. So that helps. And then, as you know, I tried my best to make sure I had a meal every day, so meal prepping and stuff. But
Right.
once again, then
Even that gets so tiring because
yeah.
you're like, I'm trying to take care of myself. I need to think about today. Now I'm needing to think about tomorrow. Now I got a meal prep for 2 days in advance. Is it gonna
Mhm.
stay good in my freezer? I don't know. And
Mhm.
then when you meal prep is the day that you forget to bring your lunch.
Mm.
So
Mm.
I'm just at a loss.
Yeah, 2 days in a weekend, I definitely think is not enough. I definitely would want 3. I think because Sunday is really the week for prep, and then
Mhm.
Saturday you're thinking about Sunday.
Sunday are scary. Sunday scaries are real, and I get
Hmm.
them every single Sunday.
Oh my God, so do
Yeah.
I.
Hmm.
Um, so I think my experience, I'm definitely still trying to work out a healthy work-life balance still. It is again like my first year teaching. Uh, but I, like KaVonna said, my first semester was definitely maybe one of my darkest semesters, not only physically, because we were never out when the sun was out. I was going to work
Hmm.
when the sun was down, coming back when the sun was down,
Hmm.
from 6 to 6. But definitely the work life balance. I want to mention that we have about 180, I think 170 somewhere, fifth graders, right?
Mm.
Somewhere around there. And we had
Yes.
2 ELA teachers for fifth grade. So it was 2 people, grading, teaching, writing reports, making assignments, grading assignments for that whole 180 students, so plus
Mm.
students. I actually did the math. Do you remember that, Melissa?
I do
I did
remember
the
she
math in the
was
car one
grading
day. I was
like
like, so we're doing classwork, homework, reading logs, and participation grades. That's 4 grades per student per week. And I was just doing the math, and I was like, if I were to count up all the individual tasks that both me and the other fifth grade ELA teacher has to do, it was
Mhm.
coming up around, I think it was like something around 2,000, 3,000 tasks, which I had to find some time within those 5 days to do before the
Mhm.
weekend, which oftentimes it did not happen. I had to
Yeah.
spend a lot of my time at home, the few hours I do have before I shower and go to sleep,
Mm.
to find the time to do those things. And in return, my health began to suffer. I got sick. I
You
didn't get enough
did a lot.
sleep.
Hmm.
I did get sick a lot. I wasn't getting enough sleep. I wasn't eating well. But I feel like a lot of the times we were not getting the resources at the school to somehow balance
No.
that out. I had essentially no preps, no free time to be doing those things at the school.
Hmm.
And then the 1 hour I did get at the end of the day, that's how my schedule worked. I had like the 1 hour before we pack the students up and they go home.
Hmm.
I was just exhausted. I, I couldn't do the things I needed to do. I would try to push myself, but I'm only human. And when you teach for 5, 6 hours straight in the day, I need an hour to myself.
Seriously.
So thankfully, the second semester I figured it out. At some point, I was like, uh, I don't remember what Wednesday it was, but I remember that the school counselor, not to say her name, but this piece of advice she said really helped me out because I really took it to heart. She said like, "Hey, if you don't get it done and it gets past a certain time, that is a problem for tomorrow."
Yeah.
And at that point, I was like, "Oh man, I should just adopt that into my life." So at some point, I think it's around springtime, I was like, "Hey, if I don't get this done at the school, if I don't get this done um, during the evening, I am just gonna let the Leah of tomorrow deal with it."
Hmm.
And I figured it's been getting gradually better from now on out.
so Leah, you said something like you're like exhausted at that point and you don't even want to like
Mm-hmm.
speak to people, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I have that feeling all the time. So if I'm on a 30-minute prep and then 3 teachers walk into my room trying to talk to me, I'm so
Hmm.
sorry, I don't want to talk. And then I feel bad and I feel
Mm-hmm.
rude. but it's like, yeah, we're teaching at least 4 to 5 classes a day. I feel like I'm putting on a show for an hour, right?
Hmm.
So now I'm talking to these people, I'm talking to these kids, I'm talking, explaining. And then like I get no like room to breathe. Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
sometimes I just need to be by myself in my own head. Like I need
Hmm.
a recharge, and I don't teachers don't get to recharge like during the day at least, because if they're not on prep, then they're grading. If they're not grading, they're in a meeting. If they're not in a meeting,
Oh,
they're teaching. Then you're in a room by yourself, a kid's knocking on the door. I don't know where my water bottle is. Now you're going on a scavenger hunt around the school looking for a water bottle.
hmm. Yeah. The
Yeah.
the overstimulation is real. Especially for me, like as someone who is introverted, um, I get overstimulated with any kind of social interaction. So the fact that I'm a teacher is just like a wild thought process. So like I'm incredibly drained. So like every time like we've ever crossed paths in the teacher workroom, I'm like, hey, and then we sit, and I get it. Cause I'm like, she's chilling, whatever we're gonna say, and then she's chilling. I get it.
The
Because
thing
that's pretty
are
much
that some of us get it because
hmm.
there's certain, like let's say us three, we're friendly.
Yeah.
I would understand if we are sitting at different tables not speaking. We're here,
Hmm.
we're chilling.
Yeah, exactly. So I do say I have the privilege of having my own room that doesn't get occupied by students when I am on a prep. So literally, I'll like because that overstimulation really be real. I literally turn the lights off. Yes, the lights still come through
Mhm.
the sun, but I turn the lights off and I sit in my little corner. I eat my lunch and I'm just here. But I have had the knock knock knock. I left something in my room. Knock knock knock. Can you open the bathroom for me? I'm like, girl, you came up all the way to the third floor. Or also for the people that are on my floor, their grade level as well. So
Hmm.
I feel that overstimulation is real. Yeah. Which was why once again I called it the introvert social hour because literally I'm not socializing very much. So it's like the hour a
I
week.
mean, me too, me too. As an introvert, you need that time, sometime in the day, to be on your own.
Yeah.
So,
Hmm.
which is very difficult to find as a teacher. Like, I understand it comes with the profession, but like,
Hmm.
I
But
need
you
that time to
chose
myself
this
sometimes.
profession, Leah.
Right.
Shame on
You knew
me.
what
Shame
to
on me.
expect. Yeah. Speaking of though, this is actually a great transition in. My next question, I'm moving into like advocating for teachers. And I feel like like what we think we need and also what other teachers need as well. In what ways or moments have you felt mistreated or unheard as a teacher? And like what things you think could be better to help us have that work-life balance, that mental stability, that emotional stability?
I can speak first on this. I think one big um, moment I felt very like
Mm.
unheard or even like looked over is that period of time. I mean, eventually we did get some new ELA teachers, so
Mhm.
the balance got a little bit better. But again, this was my first year teaching, and this was my first ever semester as a teacher. And having spent that first semester essentially, again, doing those 2,000, 3,000 tests a week
Yeah.
and bringing up those complaints to, higher up, being like, hey, there's no possible way for me to be doing all these things in the day.
Hmm.
And a lot of the times, the answer you did receive was, well, are you actually using your preps wisely? Are you actually using your free time? If you don't get that work done in school, you should be taking it home and getting it done at home.
Hmm. I've heard that. Yeah.
It needs to get done, which it made me feel like I was not enough, that something I am doing is keeping me from completing those tasks on time, which I don't think was the case. I don't think even the best teacher who's taught for 15 plus years could have done those things either.
No.
But
Those things
I
got to
didn't
get
know that.
dropped. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
I didn't
we
know that as a first year teacher. I didn't know.
yeah,
So
I get it.
um, that first semester, and you guys know, I got sick a lot. I was not healthy at school. I was always mentally overwhelmed. So it was a tough moment. That it definitely was not helped by the idea of people saying, well, I just don't think you're using your time wisely.
Exactly. And then also when you were getting sick, then like I remember you like people, having the backlash of you needing to take off time to, take care of yourself, which I thought was absolutely ridiculous too. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I was told over the chat, hey, Leah, you are being a burden to your team right now for asking for time off. Are you sure you
Mhm.
can't come in to work? So using sort of like the camaraderie we've built among us, the teachers, kind of against me to bring me to work, which I thought the double standard there was quite funny too, because my co-teacher took a lot of time off for
Mhm.
illness.
Yeah.
So, um,
So
but getting that off my chest.
yeah. So what I hear from that as far as like what could be made, like basically I'm hearing like more open-mindedness to like what teachers have to do. Maybe like through leadership and things like that.
Yeah.
Also to reminder we're human. So that
Oh
that I
yeah.
think that one too, just being aware of that. I think in addition to what you said, like I don't think people realize how much stuff we have to do, especially because I feel like they're just so quick to, oh, new deliverable, new deliverable, new deliverable, and they don't look at the whole picture. So really evaluating the things that they're giving us, I think that's important as well. Yeah.
I
What
think
about, oh yeah.
what you said there, sorry to
No, you're
interrupt, but
good.
what you said there I think is so poignant to I think what is the problem with how people view teachers nowadays. The label is teacher. It is not human, it is not person working as teacher, it is teacher. Teachers are expected to be these saviors or whatever that are supposed to be doing this. They're going to fix any child they come across. But a lot of people forget that we are just human
Mm-hmm.
and that we have our own limits and our own like workloads and day-to-day personal problems. So, and I think not only like do administrative leadership forget about that, but it's also like the parents and the students. You're often the punching bag or the scapegoat for a lot of things that happen in the school.
Yeah,
So it's just one thing I think about all the time.
I agree. What about you,
I
Melissa?
also think they should cut at least first year teachers some slack because we need to build up our immune systems.
T, yeah. That's true.
Because these kids are intense and piggybacking off of that whole like parent thing. I've
Hmm.
Yeah.
had parents ask me for advice for their children, and I'm like,
Yes. Oh my gosh, yeah.
I'm out of college. I don't have kids of my own. I'm sorry, I'm with them for English.
Hmm.
Like, I don't know how to behavior manage your kid at home.
I've gotten that as a dance teacher. Fun fact.
Intense.
Yeah.
But back to your question about like how have I felt unheard. So when you introduced me, I'm an English teacher. I have an English degree. I teach English.
Mm-hmm.
However, when I was hired at the school that we currently work at, they said, no, we have so many English teachers, right, Leah? So many English teachers. You're going to be a
We're
history teacher.
overstaffed. We're overstaffed.
You're going to be a history teacher. And I fought because my degree's not in history. I'm like, what the heck? I'm not going to be a good teacher.
Mm.
You're putting me up to fail. That's how I felt.
I
And
feel that.
no, you're going to do great. You're going to do great. I teach history for 2 months. I get the hang of it. Why not? I could do it. Sixth grade teacher quits. Sixth grade ELA teacher quits. Guess who's the new ELA teacher for sixth grade now?
Not
Melissa.
only did they quit, they quit. It happened three to
A
four
few
times.
times. They came to you after a few times to be, yeah.
Yeah, I was the last resort because they knew that I was gonna leave. Um, but so the fact that tried to stand up for myself, tried to advocate for myself, saying, hey, this is not something that I feel comfortable with. I don't think I could be the best at this.
Mm,
No, you'll get the hang of it. No worries. Just do it. Did it, did what you asked. And then I still got railroaded to do something else.
mm-hmm.
So I think like a big challenge, I guess, is like staffing. Because like Leah had that problem with her English. They ended up having to pull me. Then the history department got smaller. Like just pulling people is not helping. You need more people.
Yeah.
And then if you have 180 kids and Leah needs to call out, if you had that extra person, you wouldn't be so messed up.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's a big thing. And I know there's a whole thing about like teacher shortage and stuff like that. Our charter school doesn't necessarily have that problem. They're just too picky.
I
That
think
also brings me to, sorry to like
you're good.
interrupt, but this brings up the idea that, remember how we were hiring a lot of new teachers in the second semester, but at that point not only was it a little bit too late, but at that point we were at a time where they were not getting the same amount of resources or training, even if
Mm-mm.
we got very little of it in the beginning of the year, but we still got some sort of training and guidance and a little bit of coaching from other teachers. But when you're in the middle of the year, you're not receiving that same amount of training, guidance, resources. So
You're
a lot of
not
those new
you're not getting
teachers
those resources, and then they make the old teachers or the teachers who've been there since August,
Do the
September
training.
do the training.
do the training for them.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially, these new teachers were just, extra bodies in the building just to like look over kids. And
Mm-hmm.
even then, we were told very explicitly not to let new teachers look over a room on their own.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they
Which
couldn't be by themselves. Some of them didn't have access to gradebook. None of them had advisees, so they never had to do half the things that the other teachers had to do.
Mm-hmm.
it was
And
very, and at that point it was detrimental, I think, to us, because then we weren't able to move as freely. Like,
Yeah.
oh, this teacher's in the room, but you have to be in there with them.
Mm-hmm.
And things like that.
I do wonder, this is like this we have a whole entire different conversation about this, but um in regards to, I'm always a believer in like how management values the job, in any job, and how they value their employers is how their employers will stay. And I just
Mhm.
think I consider a lot of the things in regards to like the workload and like um the organization that can be better, and the fact that we shouldn't have to feel mistreated or unheard, and the fact that those things happen tend to have a lot of people dip pretty quickly, then that leads us
Mhm.
to feeling the way we feel and getting overworked even more and things like that. It's like a whole cycle.
Pick up the pieces.
Yeah, it's a never ending cycle for sure. um in regards to things that could be better, so I'll give you a list of things that I think I would love to see happen. um
Mhm.
One, for me, I would love to see pay match the workload. That's my
mm-hmm.
Mhm.
biggest thing.
Absolutely,
Because
absolutely.
I'm like, why is it summer and I can't even have my hot girl summer because this paycheck is not hot? It's very cold.
I'm a hot girl this summer. I'm
Yeah.
hot.
Right. I was like, I done work. We're there about 9, 10 hours a day, 10 hours, I think. Um,
11 to 12 for some people.
yes. Well, yeah, because I do 7:30 to 4:30, 4:45. I can't leave to 4:45, but whatever those numbers are. Yeah. I
What time do you guys wake up?
So I push it now.
that
That was me taking time for
that
myself.
happened. That
Yeah,
happened for me too
that
over the
that
years.
yeah,
The year.
that was a transition for me. At first I was a 5:30 girl and I was like, no, I think I could wake up at 6 and make it happen. So now I wake up at 6. And sometimes I'm late, but 5 minutes, you'll be fine.
You'll be fine.
Yeah.
I was always pushing it too. I started at 5, crazy, 5 a.m.
Hmm.
Sometimes 4 if I had work to
Oh,
get done before
yeah.
school.
Those are just no.
Um, because I live so far from the school,
Hmm.
and my commute was so long, I would always have to wake up so early. But eventually, as the year went on, and I was like, I need to get some time, even if it cost me a little bit. I need to have some time to myself. I started pushing it. It went from 5 to 5:30, and from 5:30 to 6, from 6 to a little bit later. It's like, hey, if I get, it's a little expensive, but if I get an Uber for myself,
Hmm.
I can push it a little bit. But it definitely helped me in the end because I was a lot happier and a lot healthier. So I would say even if it did cost me some money out of pocket, it was good.
Hmm. Okay. So what'd you say out of curiosity? So I said, I know like we agreed on pay. Would you say like having a shorter school
Yes.
school
Yes.
time would help for sure too?
I don't think
Oh,
kids are really learning at 7:45 in the morning.
Yeah.
no, they're not. And I think there was a lot of time
Hmm.
after like May, where we were doing nothing in the room. We were
Mm-hmm.
not learning or doing anything. A lot of that community building activities we were doing at the end of the year, we could have been doing even a month prior.
Mm-hmm.
So I think our school year is just a little too long too. I genuinely don't think that extra month we had after all our finals and whatnot is over, we didn't need that there.
Yeah,
In my
I agree. Shorter school year and shorter hours. I would love, could you imagine us getting out at 2?
Mm,
Oh,
I
I
would
would
take
love
three. I would
I would
that.
take
do
3 o'clock.
2. Mm-hmm. I would take
Like
3
even if
also.
if you keep the whatever 7 o'clock, but to
Hmm.
keep it to 3, that's doable. Because
Well,
then
that's
I'm
how
home.
it was. So like it was 7:30 to 3:30, but how it was instead of after school, like the only thing that after school was detention. All the other things like intervention stuff like that was in the morning. Clubs were in the morning. So then we for sure would be done at 4:30 for that extra time period. So they were like, we're gonna change the school year. We were like, yes, we're gonna get out earlier. And they were like, no, you're still gonna be there at 7:30. um, so it didn't really change. But
Our
yeah,
school day is longer than typical, and our school year is longer than typical. And I think that's like a thing, like that's a lore that our school has because you get more learning time, but in actuality, you're being babysat.
literally. The
And the amount of
shenanigans the
time
last few weeks.
we
Like,
were doing nothing
yeah.
in class, and that nothing led to chaos.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Um, so we said compensation. We talked about like shorter school time. How do you feel you could be more supported? Like, what support do you think would be helpful for teachers as well? So I think for us, I feel like compared to regular like public school teachers, we have the
Mm-hmm.
resources. Like charter schools,
Yeah,
at least, like we don't have to worry about buying pencils and stuff for our students. So that's like the
we
bonus.
have the classroom supplies for sure.
Yeah.
Um, I think having more prompt feedback
Hmm.
would be more communication. I think is really all I can say. I
See,
think
yeah.
the amount of times I have asked, hey, like I don't feel like I'm handling this room the best way. I would love if I could have like another person or at least someone more experienced in the room to give me some feedback. The amount of times that didn't happen,
Hmm.
or let's say, oh, I you notice that there's no more supplies like cold or hot packs in the workroom. Asking for people to replenish those more on a timely basis. Like the amount of times you would ask for things and it not happen was, I think, very detrimental to my experience of teaching.
So you had a lot of that, let's say, physically, right? Like you had those physical
Mm-hmm.
experiences where the things weren't there or you didn't have
Mm-hmm.
someone to
Yeah.
Hmm.
whatever. For me, it was almost more like academically, I feel like I wasn't supported because I was like pushed
Mm-hmm.
around so many different places. I had so many different sets of kids,
Hmm.
and then I had so many different sets of co-teachers that not only are you learning the kids, you're learning how to teach with this other person. And a lot of the times I felt like I had to take the brunt of the work. Like if I didn't do this, it wasn't going to get done. And then I was going to have anxiety and then I wouldn't be able to sleep. And then I would be having a bad day and I'm not intellectually prepared. So then I'm not going to teach these kids. So I took it upon myself to make sure that everything was done. But I think that messed me up because I was always on the go. And then that person was always relying on me to do it. And then if that person did end up doing something,
Hmm.
it wasn't correlating, it wasn't up to par, or vice versa. So then it was almost like I was their teacher too.
Yeah,
Which
So
I think really like doubles the we need like some more like coaching feedback, something.
exactly.
yeah, no,
Follow
actually,
up. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, I would say follow up too. Like, I think we don't get the question a lot of what's working, what's not working. Like those check-ins don't happen. Like, why does it happen at the end of the year? Why does that not happen throughout the year? Um,
you know what's
yeah.
crazy is that I went to it. It's not like I went to admin. Admin came to me
Hmm.
and said, I saw this, this, and this. Is this true? I say, yeah, it's true. Okay, then why don't you talk to that person about it? You have to fix it. It's your problem. You came to me asking if the problem was true, and I told you it's true, and then you told me, okay, go fix it.
Hmm.
I was
Right.
flabbergasted.
Hmm.
So it's like you see something wrong, instead of saying something about it, you're like, okay, you go fix it. It's always pawned off to someone else.
Exactly. Yeah, I definitely see that too, because I get they're busy as well, but like I feel like they're just so quick to throw more stuff onto our plate and it's just like normalized. Because I feel like if any, I can't say, but I feel like we as teachers are busier, just
Mm-hmm.
because we're in front of students, 20 to 30 plus students, multiple times a day, plus all of the other things we have to do. And some we have to prioritize, and not even sometimes we have to prioritize what values more. And obviously, if we're in front of students, that's going to be a priority one, and then students come first. So whatever those other
Mm-hmm.
issues are, they got to come. Quite frankly, I shouldn't have any issues. But
Right.
if they show up, students come first. And I definitely agree with that, considering like y'all know some of the issues I've had too. Like I shouldn't have to worry about those
Mhm.
things. Um, cool. So yeah, I think one, I agree. Compensation, support, follow up, all those things. I'm gonna super emphasize the compensation because I just don't get it.
Yeah.
um, because
Yeah.
there's some people out there who get paid even less than us, and I feel like we definitely don't get the pay that equates to the job.
No.
Um, my final question though for you to connect it all back, what are some amazing moments or positive moments that you've had as a teacher that's like, oh, this is why I do this? And I'll let you think about it. I could give my answer. For me, specifically as a dance teacher, just seeing people grow, like after doing it for a whole year, I really loved like seeing them grow and know that it wasn't just me teaching them dance, but the messages I was giving them to push and to keep trying so they could get better, and then them being proud of themselves for being better, and then seeing like their peers see them get better. It was just like a cool like effect. And I think that was it for me. Yeah.
I agree with you. So as being an English teacher, I think you too, Leah, like we are teaching them to advocate for themselves.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And if
To
you
communicate.
if you can't use your words, whether it's speech or whether it's writing, you're never going to be able to have your point come across. And like seeing them struggle with even asking a basic question, or
Mm-hmm.
oh, that person took my pencil, like instead
Mm-hmm.
of punching that person, they are talking about it, they're advocating for themselves. And seeing the
Mm-hmm.
growth from, like, let's say August to now is
Mm-hmm.
crazy, because some of the conversations I was able to have on my homeroom at the end of the year was really
Yeah.
insightful. Like we were able to talk to each other, and it's
Mm-hmm.
because they were told that their voices matter.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think that's like a really big message. And I think that by working with kids for a whole year, they realize that their voices matter.
Yeah. I like that one. That's a good one.
Um, I think one of my most brilliant moments or positive moments is I think we mentioned throughout the podcast that my homeroom just throughout was probably one of the more difficult ones throughout the
Mm-hmm.
year. I will like take some blame for it. As a first year teacher, I feel like I did not set them up in a way in the beginning of the year that made it that kind of led down to that difficulty at the end of the year, which I will take the fault for. But throughout the year, getting to see them develop academically, even if they weren't all there behaviorally, was probably one of my greatest joys throughout the year. In the beginning of the year, I felt like my classroom did not value their own academic prowess. It was a very smart classroom, and
Mm-hmm.
seeing at the end of the year them being so proud of themselves when that last morning show happened and my classroom was announced number one for all the exams, the cheers, the screams, the
Mm-hmm.
people hugging each other in my room. um, I felt
I
like
heard the screams. I heard
yeah,
them.
they were so excited.
You had the wildest class, but you did the
they did.
best academically. So that has to say something.
Yeah.
They were so excited, and seeing them be so proud of themselves and celebrating their achievement and growth throughout the year was definitely one of my best moments like ever in the year. And it happened at the end, which I think sums up a lot of of the teaching experience.
True. Yeah. It is like a good, like you said, like sums up, wraps it all up together. A little bow. It's like, see, it was worth it.
It was worth it in the end.
Got on the back. It really be like
back.
that. Like took a huge breath when we got to walk out that door.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the three of us rode home that last day, like hallelujah.
Literally. And now we're on countdown.
So back to the cycle.
I know. But to sum this all up, I'm gonna start closing it out. For the listeners out there, if you have a teacher in your life, give them love and support because they be going through it. They take on a big job and a huge responsibility that, we think that isn't appreciated enough, specifically in the US, and could be more valued. Teachers really do deserve more credit. And I hope this podcast episode gets someone, to hear this message. And if you are a teacher yourself, take care of yourself. Once again, that's always a work in progress of figuring out what that means for you and what care looks like for you, but definitely give yourself time. At the end of the day, you are your main priority. And then your job is always there, of course. But thank you so much to Melissa and Leah for joining in on this conversation. Like, I really think that this was helpful. Like, gonna get to vent a little bit too. For my listeners.
So fun.
Yes, thank you. For my listeners, don't forget to follow this podcast to get notified when new episodes drop. Share this podcast with a friend. You can also follow me at KaVonna on Instagram to stay updated as well. And then go ahead and look at the episode description to follow Melissa and Leah and stay updated on what they're doing. Get some sunshine, get some air, have an amazing week. And I will see you next week on the Introvert Social Hour. Thanks for joining. Bye.
Thank you.